Hello there, I'm the Dragonator, and this is TIC-80. TIC-80 is a free and open source tiny computer, meaning that it is a game engine of sorts that has self-imposed limits. All of the hardware limitations are not actually hardware, so it isn't like you can buy, for example, a TIC-80 at Walmart or something. Instead, you have to download it on the website or on itch.io. The monetization for TIC-80 is very different than other free and open source software that I have covered on this channel. There is a paid version of the program. However, most of the features are free, but there is a second way to obtain the paid version, and that is compiling from source. We're using the I don't have the money and I don't know how to compile from source version. Today is going to be a little bit different than when I did Godot Engine. Instead, what I've done is I actually created a game. I created a game on here. With fantasy consoles, most fantasy consoles, you start with a command line. There's always the help command, which shows you all the different commands that you can do. So for example, what I want to do is I might want to do help commands, and these are all the commands available right now on TIC-80. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these commands to get to my game. So CD means that you go to the folder that says games. I already made a folder that says games, and you can tell that there's demos, hello world, and space shooter. Mine is actually space shooter. And then you find that there is a .tic, which is the cartridges that this fantasy console creates. So let's load that in. But you can also use surf and find the game there, but I decided not to do that. If you press the escape button, you'll find the code. Now I have used functions that are not available in the default code. There is a function called boots that does not appear during when you first start a hello world. But I've also created functions like start game and play game, and then there's, other functions, built-in functions like this means clear screen. And this means that I have a button that's being pressed, which is also used here. And this is from the play game function, which is a function that I've created. I'm not going to go into detail about how the code is set up. There is a method to the madness when it comes to how I created the code. However, one thing to note is that I did a lot of comments. This is how Lua does comments. And I also was able to use pretty much some of the code that was default. So, for example, this would be, I think this is the up button /W, I think it's W. And then there's, drawing the sprite, which is SPR function, and I have score, I have meteors, I have bullets. That's the code. That's the code, though. There's also sprites. It looks like there's nothing. There isn't nothing. Well, that's a double negative. There is something. There is something. That's in the sprites tab. I'll have to look at 8-bit ships or something like that, but that's how I drew my ship. I used all of these colors, and I think you might also be able to change the colors themselves, maybe? Yes, you can. Okay, cool. Oh, darn. Don't worry about it. But this is a meteor, this is the bullets, this is the ship itself. There's a map editor for those that like to do platformers. There's this grid, and each grid is this amount of pixels. There's sound effects. I messed with it a little bit. So I want to show you what this sound effect sounds like in C4. And there's also a music editor. I did not mess with anything related to sounds or music because I'm not gifted when it comes to music creation. Let's just say that. The most that I did was the code and the sprites. And yeah. If we go back to the function play game, I just want to I want to be brief. I want to be brief on this. So there's the ship.update, and the update is just updating the ship X and Y coordinates based on the controls. BTNP button pressed 4, I think is the A button, creates a bullet on ship X and ship.y minus 8. The way that I made bullets is different than the way that I made a ship. The bullet is a function, and for every bullet, it checks where the y coordinate is, and if it's, if the y is less than -20, then it gets removed from the game. Otherwise, it just updates, and by that I mean it just goes up. And then each meteor checks each bullet's collision. And if they're both colliding, then they're both removed from the game. And then the score adds 1. And then there's if it's colliding with the ship. If the ship is colliding, then all of these happen. It pretty much goes back to default. And then if m.y is greater than 200, then it gets removed from the game, otherwise it falls. This part has to do with the timing of the meteors. And then after clear screen 13, it draws the map, draws the ship, draws the bullets, draws the meteors, and then it ends. I'm not going to go too much into the objects and such, but pretty much each object is what would be considered a scene in Godot Engine. I'm sorry, I'm used to Godot Engine. I'm going to use Godot Engine terminologies. I do have an open source showcase for Godot Engine as well as an update for Godot 4. Those will all be in the description, including where to get TIC for free, as well as paid. I recommend you use the itch.io app to download the game, if the fantasy console, if you plan on paying for it, because then you have an account on itch.io and then you can keep it updated. That way you won't have to pay every time it updates. That's just my recommendation. It's not available on Steam though. That'd be cool if it was on Steam. At least the paid version. If the paid version was on Steam, I'd pay for it. So, when we run, we have a space shooter. Press A to begin. Now, this is the first time I tried using a controller for this. I've used the keyboard, so let's see if it works. I did not put any sounds or sound effects or anything like that, so it's going to be really silent. Oh, it works. It works. That's cool. This is the first time I tried using I'm using my PC controller for this, and it looks like it's working. Score is +2, and then I can go up and down, left and right, and I can use the thumbstick too to move. That's awesome. That is awesome. And then it starts over if I collide. and then the score starts over, the coordinates of everything starts over, a new table for all the bullets. If you're interested in Lua, I might... Ooh. Anyway. Oh gosh, there was no collision there. That was weird. But anyway, if you're interested in learning about Lua, there is an entire reference manual as well as an IDE for just learning and doing some basic, but I would say console applications, which is like basic text stuff. If I press escape, then it ends. But yeah, it is pretty cool. Let's go back to let's go back to this folder. Let's go to demos, and there are a bunch of different folders. Let's do, what is car.tic? Yes. And then we can run it. It's a car. Ooh. Ooh. Neato. Neato. So you can make 3D, kinda. I have no idea what I'm doing with this car other than just making it all whack. There we go. Isn't that neat? Isn't that neat? You can make 3D. Kinda. I think it's pseudo. There's XYZ, table.insert mesh, polygon, shows 3D models, XYZ, field of view, mesh, polygon, Z order, R speed, T speed, initialization, loading points and polygon data. You would have to make each one bit by bit, essentially. It looks like polygon by polygon, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Wait, is there a translate? Initialize? Is there function translate or something? Is that in? Show wireframe, rotate X, rotate Y, rotate Z, translate? Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah! So there are a bunch of different things that you can look at. If you're new to programming, I would recommend learning how to program in Lua before trying out this game, this fantasy console. But, yeah, that is all for me today. So, check it out, stay safe, and I'll have a video coming up very soon, maybe next week. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video though.